So if you watched the last video, you should now have a character that you can work with, but we want to add some rigging. So this video will explore how we can add bones to the character so that when we move the bones, the character will deform and follow the bones. It's typical in this case that we start with a T-pose character because it's easier for animation purposes. If you followed the last video, then you have this character, but we didn't apply the modifier, or you may not have, so we need to apply the modifier. If you don't see this here, just go to this modifiers tab, and then go over here and choose apply. If you don't see apply, like me, that's because you're in edit mode, so go back to object mode. And now, apply. Okay, back in edit mode, you're going to see we have a lot more vertices. If we go back to object mode, this is where we're going to add the new bones. So notice it must be in object mode. Please don't do this in edit mode. First, go to add up here and armature. And we have an armature now, but it is inside the place where the body is right now. So if I turn it to see-through mode, we're going to see that I've just added this new thing. This is a bone. But unfortunately, it's a problem that I can't see it and the mesh at the same time. So I'm going to turn that mode off. Sorry, I'm going to go back to solid shading. And instead, while we have the armature selected, make sure that's selected, we can go down to this box here. It says Object Properties, and go down to Viewport Display. In there, choose In Front. What that means is it's going to show this object always in front of whatever object you have. So you can't put it behind something because you'll always see it, is what it means. So it basically has yeah, different viewport properties. And what we want to do is we want to grow out a bunch of bones from this point. It's good to put the central point somewhere near a central pivot point. If you move this bone, we're planning that it moves the whole character. So I would place that a little bit lower in the hip area. To work with this easier, click on the X. Excuse me. Okay, so if you have the X here, now we can move this the bone down by pressing G and locking it to the Z axis. You press Z. So you press G, then Z, and now we can just move it down. Now, in edit mode is where we're going to be growing this armature bigger. So we go into edit mode here, and now you can select one point. Also, please note, if you don't have this selection option, I strongly suggest you use it. It's over here. It's a select box. I've seen some students have select circle. It really does help to have select box. So select that piece there, the top of the bone, and then we press E to extrude. And then we go up to maybe the shoulder area, or if we want a couple of bones for more flexibility, we can do 2. So E again. Then we can go E this way to the shoulder, maybe to the elbow, and finally down the arm. And the same thing, if you just select that dot where you want to grow from again, we'll grow E to extrude to the shoulder, to the elbow, and then down to the fingertips. Up for the head, we'll go from the center point again here, E up the neck, and then 1 into the head. Now as we go down to the legs, we can just go from this point here, E here, E here, to the knee, and here. Okay, there is another option that we can do. I'll show you another way to make a detached bone if you don't want to grow from here. In the case of like rigging a spider armature, we would have lots of little legs. So you can also press Shift A to create a new bone which is detached from everything else. It is still part of the same armature bone set, though, so that's very important. As long as you're in edit mode, you can do separate bones by pressing Shift A, or you can just keep growing out of the central bone structure. If you accidentally make something that you don't like, then you can press X to delete the bones. If you want to dissolve the bones, let's say that you have, let's say that we don't want this bone here, but we just want one large bone here. We can press X and do dissolve bones, and that just basically makes that middle bone disappear and connects the other points from here to here. Okay, we have our armature ready, but now we need to connect the armature to the body. It's possible while you were working, by the way, that some of you might have moved out of the orthographic view. And if you did, it's possible that one of these points is out of the body like that. And that's not going to be very good. That's not going to work at all. If that's the case, what I would suggest you do is, to make your life easier, press A to select everything, S to scale, and then choose the axis that you want to scale it on to make it flat, which would be the x-axis, and then you press 0. And that just brings everything to completely flat here. It's not going to work, though, if you've grown bones out. For example, we will grow bones out for the feet now. Also, if it will off-center you just slightly, so I'm going to move it back. That's not too bad, though. Okay, and lastly, I'm just going to grow the feet out. So let's go here. Let's flip to the other side so I can see. And E to extrude on the x-axis. I want to just make sure I'm selecting just the right point here. There we go. E to extrude on the x-axis. Okay. Our character is ready, but our armature is not connected to the character at all. The character right now is called Cube. Let's rename him. Let's go back into object mode. Rename this to Bob. And we'll rename armature to Bob's Bones. Now, right now, these two are completely separate objects. There is no connection whatsoever. So if I move the armature, Bob does not go with it. And that's kind of scary. We don't want Bob to lose his bones. So we need to connect these two. Select Bob, hold Shift, and select the armature. Bob should turn orange, the armature, like a deep orangey red, and the armature should turn bright orange. And then you press Command P. And that says Set Parent to, and please choose Armature Deform with Automatic Weights. So it's this option down here, with Automatic Weights. This is very important. Blender is going to do all the calculating for you. And when you click this, now we can see Bob's Bones is now Bob. Bob is actually hidden inside Bob's Bones. Kind of backwards for what would make sense, but that's how it works. So we have the armature here, and if we move the armature, Bob goes with it. But here's the fun part. If we now go into pose mode, now you're only going to see pose mode if you've clicked on the armature. If you have Bob selected, you're not going to see it. So click on the armature, go into pose mode, and now if we choose any of these bones, we can rotate and Bob will move. We can make Bob wave. We can rotate only on the x-axis to put his arms down a little bit. We can rotate on the give him a silly pose, whatever you want. So this is how you can move him around. The next video we're going to explore how to make an animation so that Bob can do a little dance.